Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, I'll be talking about my opinions on The Amazing Race Season 2 after my recent rewatch. And I'm sorry it took me so long to get around to making this video. To be honest, I was kind of burnt out on The Amazing Race after doing that full series rewatch and making the season ranking video. But now I'm ready to slowly rewatch the series again. So I did a video for Season 1, I really enjoyed making it, but again, I had to take a bit of a break until now to make Season 2, and from this point on I do plan on making these monthly for the most part. We'll see. So let's start talking about the season. So from a production standpoint, I do feel like they learned from some of their mistakes from Season 1 on things like having Phil do more in the show. I mean, it was really awkward in Season 1 when he wouldn't even be at the pit stop until he had to eliminate someone. Here he's there all the time. I think that's for the better. I think the editing was improved and already evolved to a format similar to what we would see on the modern show. Thankfully, equalizers were better placed on this season to not allow a team to be a full day behind the front runners. But I did find this cast to be a bit less memorable, with a couple complete dud teams in my opinion that I don't think we had any of in Season 1. I mean, maybe Matt and Anna, but even then. But I do think this season uses its cast much better than Season 1, leading to some really great season-long storylines that I feel like was missing from the first season. Now, I will be talking about each episode and the cast, kind of similar to how I do in my Survivor and Big Brother reviews, so let's get into it. So let's start with the premiere, which was really weird to watch again. I actually rewatched Season 1 as well as Season 2 in preparation for this video. And it was really weird as I really realized that this opening was pretty much just a carbon copy of Season 1's. Like the exact same music cues, a lot of the cast being of a similar archetype, or at least the ones that were being edited in the exact same way. But I do feel like we still got a decent introduction to a lot of these teams. Now, kind of like Season 1, I did find it a bit hard to follow who was ahead of who at points, especially at the top of the pack, where it just felt like everyone was just kind of blended together. We'd also get some drama in this episode from Tara and Will, which, yeah, we'll talk about them a lot in this season. But Deidre and Hillary do end up going home here, and they were fine. I mean, I think they had a lot of potential to be fun characters, Hillary in particular, but they were the first boots, so we didn't get to see much of them. Now, Episode 2 was a pretty decent episode as well, where it felt like everything was going wrong for pretty much everyone, where Shola and Doyne got injured, and multiple buses were breaking down, and I liked how the episode was edited as well, where teams like Shola and Doyne and Chris and Alex, who were kind of irrelevant in the first episode, got a lot of airtime in this episode. The Gutsy Grannies and Gary and Dave had some pretty fun moments here as well, and we did end up losing Hope and Norm, who I found them to be the most boring team on the season. I don't think they brought anything to this season, so to see them go home was probably the best case scenario for the season as a whole. So I wasn't really disappointed seeing them going home. Episode 3 was okay. I mean, my biggest issue with it was that it was so blatant that the Gutsy Grannies were going home, where they didn't even arrive in Cape Town until everyone else had already arrived at the pit stop. But there are some fun moments in here, like the Grannies sleeping past their departure time, and the airport drama was a huge section of this episode, which pretty much every team was having trouble finding flights. But I did feel like they were missing some footage, or just decided to cut it out, just for the sake of it, because there were a lot of teams that just out of nowhere would end up getting on certain flights without any explanation. But as I mentioned before, we did lose the Gutsy Grannies here, and they were pretty fun characters. I mean, they had a pretty massive presence in these first 3 episodes, and it was pretty mind-blowing to see them actually get this far, as no one thought they would get past the first episode. But obviously they were eliminated, and again, obviously that was an eventuality. Episode 4 was a bit of a slower episode. If I'm being honest, I do think this season has a pretty big dry spot towards this middle section of the season. I think it picks up at the very end, but I do think from this point on, it kind of is relatively slow. And this episode, again, Shola and Doyne are the boots here. I thought that was pretty obvious based on the episode was edited, where they were pretty far behind and were getting lost for a lot of the episode. Tara and Will, though, had some pretty fun moments in this episode. Mary and Peach had a lot of focus in this episode for some reason. But again, as I said, we lose Shola and Doyne, who I really liked. I mean, on my previous watch through, they were my personal favorites from the very beginning, and I remember them being screwed over, but I don't feel like that was really the case. I mean, they just got lost. I mean, that's really much what happened, and that's pretty much a major reason why they ended up going home early. I mean, they were pretty strong racers in terms of the challenges, and pretty much any aspect outside of getting from location to location. But from that aspect of it, they were just terrible, and that's why they ended up going home. But they just weren't as strong of a team as I remembered them being. But I did find them to be pretty likable, even though they weren't the most riveting characters in the world. Now, episode 5 was another, again, slower episode for me. We did get some memorable moments like the feud between Will and Blake. I mean, Oswald and Danny got a local to show them around the entire day, which is pretty innovative strategy for this point in the show. I'm watching Gary and Dave and Blake and Paige go to the wrong temple was pretty funny. But overall, I mean, it was kind of just a meh episode. I mean, we lost Cindy and Russell, who, along with Hope and Norm, for me, were the most boring teams on the season. I mean, I literally got no entertainment from them the entire way through. And not for a lack of airtime. They had a good amount of airtime, which I was actually very surprised by on the rewatch. But I just know nothing about them outside of the fact that they're pastors, and I just find them really boring, so I was happy to see them go. Now for episode 6, which was the first non-elimination episode, and I think it was actually a decent one. I mean, not a great episode, considering obviously I hate non-elimination episodes, as again, they feel pointless, but I did think this one had some interesting character moments. I mean, Gary and Dave roasting the cast one by one was pretty funny. The shopping montage was really strange, and for that to end with like Mary and Peach getting into an argument was really weird too. I did enjoy the ending of the episode where Will walks onto the mat right before Chris and Alex after they agreed to go on it together, after obviously they realized that was a non-elimination leg. But this was also the episode where like the Tara love triangle like really became a major plot line at this point. And it was just kind of a weird storyline this season, and one that does continue all the way to the finale. Episode 7 was a really dry episode in my opinion. I thought the episode was fine at the beginning. I mean, the airport drama was good. Gary and Dave getting into a fight because of it was pretty good. But outside of that, this episode was boring. Mary and Peach do end up going home because, well, Peach was tired and they just give up. But I liked Mary and Peach on this season. I mean, they weren't the most entertaining team in the world, but I do think they were a pretty strong female team, and probably the strongest one in the show's history for a decent while. So, I mean, that's something at least. Episode 8 was finally a pretty strong episode, actually. I mean, it was a 2-hour episode, also known as pretty much just 2 episodes back to back. But part 1, in my opinion, was in contention for best leg of the race, even though it was a non-elimination episode. I mean, we had a lot of airtime for Oswald and Danny, where they had obviously a really laid back approach to the race, which was pretty funny to watch. And again, they get their own shopping montage here, and that's pretty funny. We also get Will and Blake messing up the roadblock, which was really fun to watch in the last few minutes of the leg. And again, overall, I just thought this was a pretty fun leg. Obviously, we also get Tara and Will arguing, but when don't we get Tara and Will arguing? So I really like the first part of this episode. Part 2, though, was kind of boring. I don't know. I didn't particularly care for it. I mean, the high point of the episode was, again, the fighting between Tara and Will, which is every episode. But we lose Gary and Dave, who were fun on the season. I mean, they had their funny moments, though they were also like really hostile towards each other at points too, which I found really strange. But there was some fakeness on their part. I mean, they were definitely playing it up for the cameras, but they were good enough TV, even though they got a bit whiny at points. And to be honest, on the rewatch, I did find them kind of annoying at points too. Episode 9 was fine, another non-elimination leg, another episode that really focused on Tara and Will, with Will's fear of heights and them actually getting along for a little bit. The airport drama in this episode was pretty fun as well, where Blake and Paige were able to sneak their bags on board while the others had to check their bags in, so the other team stalled them out until all the bags left the plane. So that was fun, but again, no one ended up going home, so overall it's just kind of an okay episode. Episode 10 was a much better episode in my opinion. Again, I think this is where the season finally picks up. From this point on, the season's fantastic, where we had the really fun segment where everyone's undercutting each other to get on the boat first, and it ended up not mattering anyway, as there was an equalizer right after it. But I really like that section where everyone's trying to bribe the workers to get their car into the boat first and get the pass and all that stuff. It's pretty funny. I mean, the back half of the episode, especially after Tara and Will check in, it does get a bit slower, but I still think it's a decent episode, one of the better ones of the season. But we did lose Oswald and Danny, who were obviously fan favorites of the season. They do return for All-Stars. They obviously had their fun moments on this season due to their humor and laid back approach to the race, but I don't know. I just found them to be okay on this season. I mean, they were great people. I mean, you could tell that. And they had obviously a different approach to the race, but overall, I found them actually more entertaining on All Stars. And I don't think that's a popular opinion, but that is the sense that I got out of watching the series last time, and I feel like I'm more than likely going to have the same opinion on the rewatch as well. But they are fantastic characters and some of the series' best as well. But now for the finale, which did include 2 legs. The first one was a relatively straightforward one. I mean, it was a bit of a shorter leg too. It was actually only like 35 minutes, I think. But the main intrigue here came from, again, the arguing from Tara and Will. Starting off with trying to book a flight on the phone, and then the diving challenge where Will gets passed by Alex and Blake. Chris and Alex get lost and end up in last somehow, but obviously that didn't end up mattering, so whatever. Finally get to the final leg, though, which is fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic from beginning to end. It's probably one of my favorite legs in the history of the show, and through that, this finale becomes one of my favorite episodes of the entire show, where we started off with Tara and Will losing the clue and unsuccessfully trying to get it from Chris and Alex and Paige and Blake, and more fighting from them as usual, but I did find it incredible how they were actually able to recover from it. They were actually able to find the name of the place in a book at the airport and then call them on the phone and confirm that they were the location. Like, that was really mind-blowing to me. I mean, we do also get some arguing at the igloo, where this is where Tara says she would rather lose than give Will the money. And then we also get more arguing from them when Tara gets passed by the other teams on that tractor thing. I mean, they argue at the icebreaker challenge. We then have Chris and Alex going to the wrong airport, only for them to fly into Anchorage from Fairbanks anyway. We have Tara and Will trying to cut the taxi line and getting to an argument with the traffic control guy. We had all the teams running down the streets of San Francisco, and then they frantically search for a taxi, and this leads to, again, the most thrilling finish to any season of the show, where Tara and Will are in the lead, and up to the finish line, Tara and Will are still ahead of Chris and Alex. And we also get the fun segment where Will tries to trick them by getting out of the taxi and running in the wrong way just to try to get Chris and Alex to do the same thing. Well, obviously that doesn't end up working out, but somehow Chris and Alex still end up behind them anyway, and then we get the foot race to the end, and it's really just the most fantastic finish. I mean, Tara and Will were so close to winning this season, but just out of nowhere, Chris and Alex just run past them, and it is the closest finish in the history of the show. I mean, at least the US version. Again, I haven't watched any version outside of the US, but it is a fantastic conclusion to this season, and again, makes this the best finale of the series. But now let's talk about the final 3. I mean, starting off with Blake and Paige, who I found their relationship to be weird, if I'm being honest. I mean, they just feel a bit too close. It just, like, I mean, I like Blake. I mean, he seems like a really cutthroat sort of player. Kind of reminds me of a JT from Survivor. I mean, he's someone that I think would actually be really interesting to see on Survivor, but edit-wise, they were very on and off. I mean, they were kind of only shown when they were prevalent. I mean, they were really fun in the beginning of the season, but I feel like by the end of the season, they just weren't as relevant anymore. Tara and Will, in my opinion, are the make or break point for this season, in my opinion. Like, if you don't like this season, it's more than likely because you don't like Tara and Will. And if you do like this season, it's more than likely because you either like or at least can tolerate Tara and Will. And again, I like their bickering. I mean, it is a major season, part of the season. So it's like, if you don't like it, then you're not going to like the season. I mean, they are a team that far and away gets the most screen time, and they're like the 2 people that should never have been together. The fact that they were actually married at some point is completely mind-blowing to me. I mean, they were just so hateful towards each other, arguing at every single opportunity. But somehow they were still the most consistent racers of the season, where they literally were in the lead until the final leg, where right in front of the finish line, they end up losing the season. I mean, I was very disappointed to not see them on All-Stars. Now, I don't know what the issue was there. Now, whether that be they didn't want to be on the same team together, or production just didn't want them back, but I would have liked to see them actually race again. Now for the winners, Chris and Alex. And in my opinion, I feel like they're some of the weakest winners in the show's history. I mean, they were all right characters. A lot of their character moments had to do with their relationship with Tara and Will, and they got some pretty good digs on Will, but in terms of the race, I mean, I think they performed pretty poorly at points. I mean, they were saved by non-elimination legs twice, with the first one being due to them being tricked by Will. I mean, they made plenty of mistakes. They were constantly getting lost. They were only able to find their way to the finish line by following Tara and Will, and literally only win due to the foot race to the finish line. So I do find them to be pretty weak winners. Now, I have considered doing a winner ranking video for The Amazing Race, but spoiler alert, Chris and Alex won't be super high on that one. So overall though, I enjoyed season 2 on the rewatch, but like season 1, I do think there are some slow points in the season. I do find it pretty difficult to rank, especially between season 1 and 2. I did put season 2 above 1 on my season ranking, but I'm not entirely sure if that's still the case. Season 1 had higher highs at the beginning of the season, while I feel like season 2 had a much stronger ending. But I would still consider seasons 1 and 2 great seasons of reality television. And I will say, I do think that the older seasons of The Amazing Race hold up better to me than like older seasons of Survivor and possibly even Big Brother. So, as I mentioned earlier, I do plan on continuing this series and would like to get around to doing a season 3 video by next month, but we'll see how that goes. But for now, those are my thoughts on season 2 of The Amazing Race. Thank you for watching.